my whole heart and being and soul is there with my clients that day.
Oh yeah, I like it like that.
Today, we're interviewing Maria Northcott, owner and operator of a Sweet Start, where she works as an officiant. That's how Kim and I know her. She also started the Maine Wedding Network, another amazing group that Kim and I are both a part of, and recently just started a new travel business called Stewart and Porter. Maria, welcome. So nice to see you again.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. Thanks for inviting me to join you.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure.
A lot.
So Maria, we have a lot of people who are now having their friends or someone in their family officiate their weddings. I'm just curious to know what you might say to a couple who's trying to decide whether they want to go with a professional or ask a friend.
So my first response is always, I completely understand the impulse to have a friend or family member be your officiant, because there's that connection and they've known you much longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain things that a professional will be able to do that your friend or family member probably will not. And a few of those things are, understand how to engage an audience.
Sure.
So there's sort of a performance aspect to it. Really, have the knowledge and wisdom of how to not just create a rehearsal and run a rehearsal, but form community, because that's what starts happening at the rehearsal. The community that I form between the wedding party and the family, and establishing myself as what I call a loving authority.
Perfect.
That all happens at the rehearsal, where I'm really bringing the group together. A friend or family member probably doesn't have a lot of experience working with microphones and what happens if there's wind, or if the mic cuts out, or having to, adjust yourself to be closer to the antenna, or whatever it is, if it's a wireless mic. So there's all sorts of technical aspects to it.
Right. And that's even if they have mics, or even think about that part.
That's right.
Well, that's
right.
Usually the DJ.
Sometimes, yeah.
If they coordinate it, if they know to even coordinate it,
Right.
I will say, but one of the probably most meaningful reasons to have a professional officiant is I'm independent. I am not connected to one of the members of the couple more than the other. So oftentimes, if they've invited a friend or even a family member, it's from one side. So it's either, they know that person better. And what I've seen is sometimes the ceremony can turn into a little bit more of like a toast,
right,
where the friend is kind of talking, maybe telling some funny stories, or how they met the member, how they met the couple. And those stories I find are much more appropriate at the reception, where the ceremony to me is much more about the couple and about this incredible commitment they're about to make in this moment, and creating space, and a grounded space. I mean, that's a huge part of what I do. And my tagline is savor the moment, save the memories.
Yeah.
Because I believe that, having this calm, grounded space allows them to really sink into the moment and acknowledge it as it's happening. But I find that friends and family members don't necessarily know how to do all of that and create ceremony. Truly, that's at the core of it, is creating ceremony.
I love that, Maria, because I think the ceremony of the wedding is such, it's the thing. It's the reason that you're having a wedding. And I'm always surprised when the couple is like, I don't know, maybe shy, maybe uncertain, maybe it's that they have a friend officiating it, but it just seems like not the most important part for them.
But I
Talk
also
about
think,
those
as a photographer, if it's a friend officiating, oftentimes they don't have them connected. They don't have them holding hands. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
They don't have them holding hands. They're just standing there stiff.
Right.
And also,
it's so true.
90% of the time, they forget to tell the audience, the guests.
I always call them the audience.
Be seated. Be seated. Have you heard these stories before? I'm sure you have. You're not there when obviously it's a friend.
Well, no, but I have done some day of wedding coordination. So,
so you
I have
that must make you cringe.
Certainly seen those little slip ups. Yeah. And I think, there are so many other little subtleties that I could tell you about what it means to be a professional wedding officiant and how important it is. You just wouldn't even notice it, but it's how I have the couple, the way I have them standing closer together so you can almost not see me, right? I don't need to be the focal point. I need to, what I tell my couples when I'm meeting with them the first time is I explain, I have this very interesting role in your wedding. I have to balance being the touch point for this moment on your day and being this kind of grounding force for you. And in front of all of your guests, I am there and standing up, but I have to make sure it's not about me. Right. So it's this really interesting dance I do. Yeah, there's much more to it than you might even think, but I'm thinking about all of those things. And you'll be happy to know I am also thinking about what makes the best photos. So for example, if they have somebody come up and do a reading, I always step to the side. I have my couple come together, and then I have the person who's doing the reading stand where one of the members of the couple was just standing so that they're together and they're reading, and I'm way off to the side. I get out of the way for the kiss. You know, I make sure they're close enough together so they're in the photo, you know, and I tell them at the rehearsal that my job is to stay centered on the aisle and their job is to stay centered on me. So I try to keep them centered. So I'm also thinking about, you know, for all of you, what makes it a good ceremony.
Right.
Maria, I was so excited to hear you talking about centering yourself down the aisle and telling your couples to center themselves against you, because that is, as a photographer, one of my pet peeves is when I'm editing and looking at it being uncentered. It drives me crazy. So that's a really important part of your perspective. And I deeply appreciate that work that you do. Thank you.
I will say this, it doesn't always work.
Oh, for sure.
I tell them,
guaranteed.
Because I do tell them at the rehearsal, and I say it that way. I say, my job, you know, is to stay centered on the aisle. Yours is to stay centered on me. And I'll even tell them at the rehearsal, I'll say, if I feel like you're a little off center, I might whisper to you, like, take a step in or take a step out, and I do give them stage directions during the ceremony. I know it makes it sound like a performance, which it sort of is, but
it is a performance, Maria. Thank you for acknowledging that. That's the whole, otherwise you can get married at the courthouse and that's not a performance. That's a private thing between just the two of you. But I think if you're going to go through the expense and the trouble of having a wedding and inviting all of your friends and family from all over the world, let's make this the best show that they've ever seen.
Yeah, it is a production. Absolutely. And that's what makes a professional is we think of all of those tiny details, the logistics, all the minutia. And the goal is for us to think about it so they don't have to.
Exactly.
It's another thing I do is I have if there's a bride and a groom, I have the bride hold the bouquet until the vows, as opposed to passing it off when you get up there. Because then it's
Thank you. They always forget to take it back when they go down the aisle.
Not if I'm there.
I know. Ooh, okay.
I'm telling you, these are the things, because I also feel like that honors the floral designer.
Yes.
It makes for beautiful images. So I'm really trying to pay attention to all of those details that maybe don't even have anything to do with the actual content of the ceremony.
Yeah. Those flowers are incredible. They're pieces of art, and you should have them in your hand as much as possible. And
also it gives your hand something to do, so you're not fidgeting. And then there's also this, if you don't have your bouquet, there's this pressure to hold hands the whole time, which is a lot of pressure to like stand and gaze lovingly at each other for like 25 minutes. That's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot.
It's nice to have, like, I have them faced out towards their guests for the first half of the ceremony. Then once she gets rid of her bouquet, if it's a bride and a groom, then they face each other for the second part of the ceremony. So I have all these little tricks to make them feel more comfortable and relaxed. And one of the greatest, I would say, like, reviews or feedback I get from my couples is they say, you were our rock. You were our center. You kept us grounded. You kept, I was so worried I was going to cry, and you were there. Like, they can feel it. I tell them this. I say, there's a huge part of what I do that you're not going to be able to hear or see, but you're going to feel it.
That's awesome.
Well, I have a whole process for the kiss too.
Yeah, well, we're
going to go deep today.
We know that the officiant wants to get out of the way. They don't want to be in the kissing pictures, but a lot of times
it looks like they're kissing you sometimes in photographs,
right?
Like,
and the person like standing back there.
Right. 80% of the time. But a lot of times the officiant's just trying to get out of the way. So they're in the background running away. And you go to the side
Definitely.
before that. Okay.
I've got
Yeah,
a whole,
you got it
I've got a
dialed
whole,
in, girl.
I've got it dialed in, ladies.
Tell
do.
us
So,
more.
Okay, so
Okay.
here's how it works. And I do this at the rehearsal. So we practice at the rehearsal. And what I explain to them, I tell them, I say, you know, you don't want me in your wedding photo, but it means your kiss photo.
Yeah.
But I say, it means you need to give me one beat. And here's how it works. And it works perfectly every time. I'm going to say, I now pronounce you married. What you're going to do is, I say, because they're holding hands at this point, I say, you're going to drop hands. You're each going to take one step in towards each other. So they're not like bent over, right? Each take one step in towards each other, embrace and kiss.
Yes.
And all of that gives me time to go hide behind the best man or whoever's standing off to the side. So there, you might catch a photo of me running, but then it's not the kiss photo. Because it's all
Join us.
for the photos.
Absolutely.
And also for the connection. So I've seen it where the couple, they drop hands and then they lean in to kiss. And again, they're doing this kind of like their butts are
the butts are out.
and they're missing the embrace. And that's what that like grounding, again, going back to how it feels to touch each other and hold each other, which is another reason why I have them next to each other during any readings, because I want them to connect. I want them to have their arms around each other and feel that grounding connection in the middle of the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
But
I like that you encourage them to have a reading, because sometimes they don't. And I think you're right. Having that moving around and the shifting, and it really helps.
I feel like it provides an exhale for everybody. There's just this moment of pause and reflection. It's not just me talking the whole time.
Right.
It changes the voice, everything. So I actually find that adding in a reading or even two can make the ceremony even more engaging.
I completely agree. I love that.
It's funny because it sounds like you're describing a painting, like a living painting. The movement, the texture,
Love that.
It is, because if you just stand there, blah, 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 no, you need movement.
Yes. And to engage the audience, again, it's to bring them into it, right? You want to have them feel like they're there witnessing something.
Lines.
Yeah. Interesting, Kim. I love that description. I never thought of it that way, but
I never have either.
Yeah.
See what this does?
Yes.
I love that. And I love what you said about the breath. It's all about the breath for me. I'm a yoga teacher.
I just want to say one more thing that you'll appreciate, Lexi, being a yoga instructor. So I explain to my couples, and this is especially true with the sweet and simple ceremonies where they're pre-written and there's very limited customization. But even for the super sweet, I've been doing this for 10 years, almost 11. I explain to my couples, I ask them, I say, do you understand the concept of the beginner's mind? Right? Where you come to your yoga practice as if you're a beginner, open every time is a new time. And then if they aren't familiar with it, I explain that to them. But that's the intention with which I come to every ceremony. Like it's the first time I've ever done it. And because it is the first time I've ever done it for them.
Absolutely.
So that beginner's mind, concept, I bring that to the ceremony so that I have this like excitement about it and it feels fresh and new every single time. And it's an intentional thing I have to do because it's not always new. It can be the same words, but I have to bring that intention to it.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Painting. You're
Painting.
You're customizing a painting for a living painting. For ceremonies, when you tell people to breathe, I find that nobody else does that. And I find that really powerful, like, because it's silent all of a sudden and people are breathing. The couple they're taking a deep breath and you don't say anything.
Well, it brings you back into the state of centeredness and calms your nervous system. So even if you're just a guest and you're not particularly nervous, it just brings the whole energy of the room into this collective consciousness.
And even if I'm not asking, because I don't ask the guests to take a deep breath, but I ask the couple to,
right, it's a couple.
But everybody does it.
Absolutely.
Have you ever noticed that when somebody says, take a deep breath, everybody does it. And what you just said, Kim, the quiet, that's a performance technique. I make sure that there are quiet moments throughout the ceremony.
Negative
Where
space.
I'll take a negative space where I'll take a deep breath
Of the painting.
between of the painting, but between like the sections in the ceremony, I'll take a deep breath and I'll exhale
Yes.
and then I'll start. And again, they'll feel it, but they don't know that something actually, I'm doing this with intention, but their negative space. I guess I am painting. This is
You
fabulous. I had no idea.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love it.
We're all painting.
We're artists.
You should encourage couples to throw flower petals, or bubbles don't work very well, but different
They
colored
don't.
flower petals, something organic, obviously. I don't talk to my couples about that. I should.
Oh,
But
I
it just
started.
makes that recessional so spectacular.
It does.
That is such a great idea. I can totally mention that.
Yeah, because that's hard, because
They're
we've been
confused.
at weddings where we were like, I know, can you throw those? Throw those, and
Yes,
everybody knows
I
what
end
to
up being
do.
that. I end up doing,
But then we
the-
can't
the-
take
that
pictures
job.
very easily if we're the only
This
photographer.
and we're
is
behind
really-
people at this point.
I don't say something, but I certainly could make an announcement at the beginning before the procession even begins. That's when I
that
make
would
my
be
announcement.
so amazing,
That's
Maria.
something I can add into my, if I
I
see
love
that they have
that.
bubbles or something, I can make an
Yes.
announcement about that. So
Yes.
usually I thought you were going to ask about, do I make an announcement about the ceremony being unplugged, which
Oh,
I often do. And I encourage my couples. I don't just ask them if they want it or not. I actively encourage them to go with an unplugged ceremony.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
and that's also for the photographers, but not just for you all.
It's
It's
for the
also for
guests.
them
It
and
really
for
is.
the couple,
Everyone involved.
everyone involved, to turn out and look at your guests and see all those smiling faces shining back at them. It
in
is,
a moment, please.
that's
You don't
my
want to
view.
see. You don't want to see that when you look out at me.
No,
Another
just-
screen.
I just
I
got,
can make a screen happen for you.
Yeah,
I could
could
do
you?
that for you, Maria.
could you make
yeah.
it an iPad, please?
Here we go. Yes, bigger. Yes,
Thank God
for
nobody
sure.
brings iPads anymore. But do you remember that phase?
Oh, they're still out there.
Oh, they're definitely still out there.
They're
yeah.
still out there.
What's happening?
But I love that you brought that up about the confetti, because I never thought about adding that into my announcement. So I can certainly do
Maria,
that.
I
Now-
never imagined I was
Now we
going
just wanna
to
work
be
with
able
Maria.
to.
Yes, I'm always open to
Amazing.
learning and making it better for everybody, right? That's what this is all about.
I've
Yeah.
started telling my couples, and Maria, you might want to use this too, is to ask your most exuberant favorite people to sit along the aisle and in the back row, because
we-
they will be the most heavily photographed for the recessional.
And they're the ones that
the
will
other guests
throw the
will follow their lead with the level of enthusiasm and excitement and exuberance that
That
those
is
people are showing.
genius.
Yes.
Genius.
That took a lot of
Thought that the
editing.
other day, because we were going
figure
over
out.
a wedding that you had photographed. And it was great, except for there's this really bored man just sitting on the aisle.
There always is. Get
Not
off of
doing
the
anything,
aisle,
and everyone
dude. Go
else
on
is-
the other end of the aisle.
That is so
Because-
genius. I feel like I should be writing these down. I'll go back and
Yeah.
rewatch
You'll just
this.
have to
Yeah, well,
watch
I'll
this
make sure
then,
you-
Maria.
Exactly. No, that is
Don't
great. I
forget to
love
subscribe and save.
that. Is like subscribe. No,
Yeah, subscribe. We have-
I love those things. I love hearing those ideas. I mean, that's what will make it better for all of us. Like,
yes,
this is fantastic. Nobody has ever mentioned these things. I love this. This is exciting.
that's why we're doing this. I want people to be heard. I don't think we understand each other. I mean, we basically know what each other does, but like just talking, just listening to you, I didn't really realize that there was so much involved.
Yeah.
Like it takes a special person, and you can tell.
I have to
Yeah.
tell you how much that means to me to hear you say that, because
Say,
I do to say that you didn't realize how much goes into it.
oh,
And
and
I
I don't
think,
think anyone does.
I don't
And I
think anyone
think-
realizes how much goes into every
And
single
everybody's
part of
That's
every
why it's-
single job.
We're all trying to work for the couple and do our very best in it. It's-
that's why I'm a fan of job sharing. So I've done wedding photography, I've worked in catering, I've done some planning and officiating. And so I have so much more respect. I even worked with a
Absolutely.
florist one weekend. Like, I think job shadowing and job sharing is such an important thing. And that was like one of my big goals and plans for the Maine Wedding Network when I originally started, was like, I loved that idea because I've done it and I know the value that comes with it. But just going back to that, I just want to say, because in the wedding industry, officiants are often seen as, or let me put it this way, because couples often choose to work with friends and family members for the officiant, where they would never consider doing that for their caterer, right? Or
Right.
like they would never
Right.
consider doing that for
Well-
their DJ. I know, but in most cases,
They
even
do,
people who
yeah.
have like a DJ, a planner, a photographer, a videographer, they still might have a friend or family member do the wedding. And I think in our industry as a whole, officiants are not as valued as much. And I'm just saying this from a very sensitive like place, because so often our job is done by somebody who's an amateur. And so to hear you say, wow, I didn't realize how much goes into it, means a lot to me, because it's means what I do is being valued. And as a whole, I feel like officiants.
I know what you mean, and I think I'm guilty of that too. When I do a blog post, I don't know if I ever put the officiants in there.
I don't think that we
I will
added
from
that to
now
the
on.
questionnaire until last year, Kim. Who was your officiant? I don't
we
think that was a
even have
part of the
that?
questionnaire. Beautiful.
You can tell that you genuinely like these people.
You're right, Kim. I love them. I love
I
them
can
so
tell.
much. And this is why I only do one a weekend, going back to that question. Like, my whole heart and being and soul is there with my clients that day.
And of course, we all love it. And it's so funny because I don't think any of us ever aspired to be working in the wedding industry. When I was younger, I never said, I want to be a wedding photographer.
No.
Never. None of us.
No, I
No.
didn't even know it was an option. That was like doctor, lawyer, you kind of get those, like, I didn't even think about it. Never occurred to me.
No, but I feel like you've just kind of followed your passion. A lot of these people in this business, because these aren't regular 9-to-5 jobs.
No, and I will say, even more than my passion, I feel like it's my calling.